For 2 weeks only, get your own Zombie Killer t-shirt. A link is down below. There have been several warnings throughout the zombie storyline to shut the windows from Dr. Maxis, and it keeps popping up throughout the zombie storyline. We first saw it on the map Origins when Dr. Maxis tells Samantha and Eddie to put their toys away and shut the window before they come downstairs. We also then hear it multiple times in a few radios. It also pops up in the timeline. We have this from the timeline right here in the Argotha timeline. It says, "The arrival of the souls." The souls arrive. Maxis tells Samantha and Eddie to put the toys away and to make sure the windows are locked before they can come down to the basement. Then you have September 2nd, 1945. Temporal risks begin to affect the asylum facility, and orderly reports increasing problems with test subjects. Many in the facility have begun to hear voices coming from the walls, including the sobbing of a boy and a girl screaming, and a man shouting for children to close the windows. It's everywhere. And then we even see it in the timeline or the storyline trailer for Zombie Chronicles. Samantha walks into the room, notices the window is wide open, and is kind of startled. She runs to the window and quickly shuts it. Notice how she's startled by it, how it catches her attention, and she quickly runs over to shut the window. This is a nod to how important it is to shut the window. Treyarch wants this to be abundantly clear, and this is why it appears in multiple radios, it appears in multiple trailers/cutscenes, and it also appears in multiple spots on the timeline. It is echoing throughout the zombie storyline because Treyarch wants us to take note of the window, and that the window must be shut. Dr. Monty's radio in Kino Der Toten gives us a better idea of what's going on with Samantha's room in Kino Der Toten.
Kino Der Toten, Theater of the Dead. I don't know why it wasn't Untoten, but I suppose the whole living dead thing is something of an oxymoron. I like that word. Oxymoron. Been very useful when trying to identify all the contradictory chaos I've had to entangle. Anyway, Group 935 were back to their old tricks. Been in an old cinema. I don't know why. Maybe they wanted to watch some old movies. That was where you first saw the house, wasn't it? Well, part of it anyway. Samantha's room. Remember? You probably don't, but trust me. It's there, alright.
When we teleport to Samantha's room, sometimes we see a normal version of her room, and then other times we see a demonic version of her room. We always just assumed that these rooms were in Deriz, and maybe this is where Samantha lived, this was where she stayed when Dr. Maxis was doing work at Deriz, or perhaps she had a room somewhere within the Kino facility. We just kind of assumed that was our guess, but now Monty reveals to us that this was the first time we had ever been to the house. This wasn't just her room at Deriz, this was her room within the house, meaning that we had been going to the house since Black Ops 1. That's what had actually been going on, and we're seeing two different versions of her house. One that is normal in the pure and innocent version of that world, and one that has been demonized and turned into this hell. Yesterday I was browsing the Reddit when I came across this theory. It's a pretty good one, but it didn't get much attention, and when I read it, it immediately jumped out at me, and I thought I would take some time to share it considering it never really went anywhere. I'm gonna put a link to the original thread down in the description, but the way it goes is basically a link between Maxis warning the children to shut the window and Samantha's demonic room in Kino Der Toten. So Maxis is always warning us to lock the window and shut it, and maybe this is to prevent any sort of corrupting forces from entering into the home. Potentially the Dark Ether, potentially the Shadow Man and his sort of seductively evil ways, something that might corrupt the pure world that our characters are living in. And you'll notice when we teleport in Kino Der Toten, we have Samantha's room, and there's the good version. This is where the window is shut, everything is in its place, there's no demonic things anywhere, it's just a normal child's room. But then we have the evil version of the room. There's teddy bears all over the floor, the furniture has been strewn about, everything is a mess, there's blood everywhere, and then the window's broken open. The window cannot be shut, and maybe because the window was broken open, or because somebody opened the window or left it open, this is why the room has been destroyed, and this is why things are the way they are. And this is something that's been in the zombie storyline for a long time. You can go look at the original Samantha's room in Kino Der Toten, and you'll notice in the good version, everything is neat and orderly and the window is shut. But then in the demonic version of it, the window is once again broken open. And maybe this has been something Treyarch has been trying to tell us the whole time. Part of the reason Samantha's room is like the way it is, the way it's been corrupted and is no longer pure, is because the window was left open, or the window got broken open, and then once it was broken open, you couldn't actually shut the window anymore. And that's what let this dark corrupting force get into her room. Potentially is a fracture or another reality where this did happen and this did go wrong. Or maybe this is foreshadowing something. They're always telling us to shut the window, and it keeps popping up over and over and over. It's multiple times in the timeline. It comes up through multiple radios. It's in a few different cutscenes / trailers. It's like Treyarch is really foreshadowing this, and it hasn't actually been something that's been a focal point of our story yet, but it's definitely been there in the background, all these warnings, and now in Kino, the foreshadowing of what happens when you leave the room open. I think this is a great explanation to what Dr. Maxis has been warning us about this whole time. It kept saying, shut the window, and we didn't know why. It was almost just like a little bit of a throwaway line, but I think this has been something that Treyarch has been warning us about for a very long time that might eventually come up in the zombie storyline, and finally we have a better understanding for what it is he's trying to tell us. That's going to wrap things up for this video. I just thought this was a very good theory, and it really didn't get much traction on the Reddit, so I thought I would make a video about it, because when I read it, I immediately had a click in my head and I understood what was going on. I thought it was very clever, and it was something I had never thought of before. Like myself earlier said, I kind of just threw away that Maxis line, shut the window. It's just something he said a lot, maybe to prevent the Dark Ether from getting in, but we never really understood what was going on there. And then to finally link it up with Kino Der Toten makes a lot of sense. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'm going to go, and bye.